tell you, based on the conversation or the presentations I've heard tonight, there's a lot of times when you want your representative voting no. And I can tell you, because I voted no on a lot of bills that Jim Walsh has voted no on, that Joe Mack has voted no on. And there's a very good reason we voted no on it, because they're harmful. Some of them have taken away parents' rights. There was a bill in the legislature that would allow a housing entity that if a youth came in who had run away from home and didn't want their parents to know, but they wanted gender-affirming services, that the parents would not be notified. Couldn't even call and say, your son is in a safe place, they're with government officials, which we know that would be a contradiction, wouldn't it? But they couldn't even call and say, your son is off the street, your daughter is off the street. And I think it's 13 years old or older. That's the type of bill that should go down. That's the type of bill that you'll see Walsh and McIntyre voting no on, as well as myself and Barnum. And not only do we vote no on a lot of those bills, we go way into the hours of the night and into the hours of the morning fighting against that type of thing. I've seen times when we have debated, and there's only 40 of us, and sometimes we only have 3 minutes. We've debated bills for 4 hours. We've debated bills for 6 hours. We've debated bills for 9 hours. Sometimes those bills don't come up until 9 o'clock at night. I can't tell you how many times I've given floor speeches at 4 a.m., 5 a.m., 6 a.m., 7 a.m. That's what your state legislators that are currently in office have been doing for you from the 19th and the 20th district. We stand up against taxes. We stand up for your right, your Second Amendment rights. We stand up for your First Amendment rights. We stand up for private property rights. We stand up for your jobs, especially your timber jobs here in this area. We work hard. Listen to what you have to say. And we are, and have been, your voice in all of you. Thank you.
All right, we have time for questions.
Thank you for voting no.
For sticking around for those 4 hours or 6 hours or whatever it takes for parental
I'm going to
rights.
jump in. We really are going to keep the questions, the audience questions as focus right now.
I'm curious why you think that the government has had to, that our state has had to make some of these rules and laws to protect the children.
Well, personally, I don't think a lot of these laws do protect the children. Once you take the parent out of the equation, I think you're harming the child, not protecting the child. Correct. And that's one of the big concerns that I have, and that's one of the things that I look at when we see a piece of legislation in front of us. They want to provide some sort of care in the schools. Well, how are they going to do it? How are they going to make sure that the parents are involved? What is the notification to the parents? They're even asking permission from the parents. Because you take a kid into a doctor's office, or if a kid goes into a doctor's office, somebody over 18 has to sign for them to do a procedure. Why should that same thing happen in schools and some of these other organizations that are out there? Parents know their kids better than government ever could. Each child is an individual, has individual needs, and those need to be considered when any kind of decision is being made for that child, especially when they're 13, 14 years old, especially at that time when they're confused, they don't know. They think they know, but they may not really know the consequences of something that they say they want to do. Having a parent there to help walk them through the difficulties. Because we all know that every parent out there was 13 or 14-year-old at one point. They've been through a lot of these things. They understand these things. And if we want children to grow up, to be happy, to be healthy, to be successful, they need to be raised, and they need to be raised by their parents, not by the government.
Representative Orcutt. Bob Gunther, you know that I'm a Democrat, but I want to let you know and thank you for all the work that you've done up in this area. You live down south, but case in point, you helped with the North Freeway interchange and that money, and we're hoping to relieve the traffic in Centralia, so thank you very much.
Thank you, Bob, and I really appreciate you saying that, especially in the public forum. I really enjoyed the working relationship that we've built over the years, despite that we come from different parties, different backgrounds, because we are working for the same thing, and that's to improve the economy here in Southwest Washington, especially here in Lewis County. And I think the work that you and I have been working on together are helping to do that. And we will continue to do that. Thanks for your work on the PTO partners, because without that, I think there's a lot of timber that would not be coming off the national forest, and our mills in East County would be suffering terribly as a result. So I really appreciate your work on that. I appreciate Jamie Herrera Butler for running for Commissioner of Public Lands. She's my choice in that post. I've served with her in the legislature. I've also served with her opponent in the legislature. I can tell you the things that Jamie said, and keep in mind, I'm a forester. That's what I am by trade. And I've also done a lot of work in fire ecology and wildfire management. So the things that she's talking about are the problems that we're really facing in this state. And that's one of the things that I work on, is I try to work with the Department of Natural Resources. I still on the Natural Resource Committee have for 21 of the 23 years I've been there. And we're trying to get better management of our state forests. And I can tell you our state forests are managed better than our national forests, but there still needs to be work. In 2015, one fire in Washington State released more carbon into the atmosphere than all of the cars in Washington State on the road for a full year. The equivalent of 11 million cars on the road for a year was released from one fire. They called it a complex fire, and I think it was 2014. There are only 8 million cars in the state of Washington. You want to cut carbon? There's the way you do it. Manage the forests.
Yeah, but one more question. Thank you for coming. Can we talk a little bit about the McCleary decision? Did it actually lower class sizes for students, and did the money help fund some of the rural school districts? Where did the money go?
So there are a lot of different aspects of the McCleary decision that was in 2017. What we did was a levy swap. So instead of relying on local levies, we lowered some of the local levy authority, and we took some of that into the state, and that satisfied the McCleary decision. One of the unintended consequences of the McCleary decision is we're taking in hundreds of millions of dollars more than what we told the taxpayers we would take in. So for the last 4 or 5 years, I've been running legislation to try and lower the state levy so that you would get all that savings on your tax bill, rather than having to pay more than what you were told you were going to have to, more than what the court said was required to satisfy the McCleary decision. Yes, class sizes should have been set. They actually have been. We have been funding to a certain class size for many years. And it troubles me that I just received an email from a constituent just a day or two ago complaining that her first grader's class has 23 students. And I believe we fund for 16 or 17 students in those lower grades. So what is happening at the local school district is the question. But yes, and the Supreme Court confirmed that we were sending down an appropriate amount of money based on the McCleary decision to fully fund education.
All right, everyone at Orcutt, thank you again for being here.